All right, it is Friday in Holy Week. And again, an awful lot going on today as the Savior will be tried. He will be tried several times by several different individuals. He is going to be beaten, scourged, mocked, dressed up as a king, and of course crucified and will die. I want to focus mostly on what the Romans do to him and the judgment of Pilate with Jesus and Barabbas. There's a lot here of richness that we can understand if we put it into context with going to the Old Testament and understanding what's happening during the Day of Atonement. So let's get into that. And we need to understand something between the beliefs of the Jews and Christians. And that is that it's not just a difference in belief of a Messiah that has already come or that will come. Right? The Jews don't believe in a Son of God. They do not believe that God himself, the Son of God, is going to come down from heaven, be born of a woman, take on the sins of the world, and redeem mankind, or give us the opportunity for an eternal life. That is not what the Jews believe. And so it's not a matter of there being a Messiah or not. It's a matter of being the Son of God. And this is, when you go to the Gospels, and you see the three synoptic Gospels, in my opinion, these are written earlier on than what we get with John and the Gospel of John that I think was written much later. And John seems to be looking back at the synoptic Gospels much later on and saying, I need to fill some things in here. And so he's going to give us a completely different witness, right? Because the synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, Matthew and Luke seem to be borrowing from, and Mark seem to be borrowing from a common source, and especially from Mark. And John is looking back and filling in some of the gaps and giving his own perspective. And John was there, right? John's around and was close to Jesus. And so we get a little bit of a different perspective from John on several different accounts. But John's focus seems to be, look, Jesus is the Son of God. He's not just a Messiah. The high priests of the Jews did not have a problem with him being a Messiah. Right? There were several different Messiahs. Barabbas, in a sense, was a Messiah. He's a political Messiah. That's not the issue. Right, that they're looking for this Messiah that's going to overthrow whatever. Their issue is that it's a Messiah that's going to be the Redeemer of the world, not throwing off the shackles, political shackles, and the shackles of the Romans, but one that is going to throw off the shackles of sin, and that he is divine. He's actually the Son of God. This is the issue. And so John focuses in on this quite a bit and shows that the Jews, the elites, the high priests and the elders that are there, that are running Jerusalem and the temple, the reason they're going to condemn him with the Romans is because he claims to be the Son of God. That is really important to understand. And that is the issue here. It is the same reason that they're going to kill Lehi, because he's preaching about the Son of God. It's the same reason that Abinadi is killed, because he's preaching about the Son of God. It's the same reason that many of the prophets in the Old Testament, we don't have these stories, but they were killed because they were preaching about the Son of God. And John's going to make this distinction very, very clear. Now, when he finally makes it to Pilate is going to have him scourged, right? He scourges him. They're going to beat him. They mock him. They put on a thorny crown and a purple robe and a staff and mock him as the king. And here it is again, the Holy Week. We remember that the first day of the week on Palm Sunday, he's coming in as the King of Kings, praised by his followers, and the palms and the robes and the hosannas that are shouting. And here he's not going to be crowned at the temple. Right? Instead, right now, he's going to be crowned and mocked by the Romans, by mankind, by the world. They are going to mock him as the king. And in this regalia, he's going to be judged with Pilate. So Pilate is going to come out, and he is going to have Jesus on one side with his thorny crown and his purple robe, and Barabbas on the other. Now, who is Barabbas? And this is the imagery that we need to really focus on. Barabbas in John is called a sicari. Now, sicari means, you may have heard the term sicario in Latin, but the sicari is an assassin. So Barabbas is an assassin. He's probably killed a Roman official. And he's probably a zealot, right? He's a part of the uprising to overthrow the Romans. He is, in fact, in some ways, a Messiah. He is a political Messiah. And so the chief, and it's important to understand, these are not the same people that were praising Jesus when he was coming in on a donkey. And you'll see this distinction, especially in John. And you'll see the chief priests and the elders and the scribes, perhaps, and others that are part of that elite group in Jerusalem. They're the ones that are judging Jesus here with Pilate and riling up the crowd that is there, or those that are their followers and in their inner circles. And they're the ones that are going to condemn Jesus to death. It's a different group of people, because they feel threatened by him. They're the ones that are in charge of Jerusalem. They're the ones that have the power. They're the ones that are making the money. And they're the ones that have the economy built around the temple, the den of thieves. They're the thieves. And they're the ones that are going to have Jesus killed. But Pilate is here, and Pilate, if you think about the Day of Atonement, going back to Leviticus 16, the high priest is going to have, on the Day of Atonement, is going to take 2 goats. And these goats have to be identical, right? They're both going to be identical. And one of them is going to be killed and sacrificed. They cast lots, and to the lot, when the lot falls on one, that's the one that's going to be sacrificed. And that will be the sacrifice for sin. And that is the one that will be, the blood from that goat will be used to purify the temple and purify the land and even purify the people. Okay, and it's going to be put in on the Ark of the Covenant and the altars and cleaning out the temple, etc. And the other goat is going to have all the sins put on it. Of all the sins of the people of Israel are going to, the high priest is going to put his hands on that goat, and all the sins are going to be put on that goat, and then it's going to be sent out of the city and eventually thrown off a cliff. And that is the scapegoat. That's where we get the term the scapegoat. Well, in this case here, you've got the imagery of the Day of Atonement happening, because this is the Day of Atonement. This is the day Jesus is going to go up on the cross. He will be the offering, the sacrifice for sin. And the other goat is Barabbas. Now, in the earliest Greek manuscripts, it's very interesting, because Barabbas is called Jesus Barabbas, right? So his name is Jesus Barabbas. And what does Barabbas mean in Aramaic, the language that they spoke at the time of Jesus? It means the Son of the Father. So you have Jesus, the Son of the Father, and Jesus, the Son of God, that are here as the 2 goats. One will be sacrificed, and one will be the scapegoat. And the Jews are given the choice of who to choose. It's not Pilate. And Pilate's not some good man because he doesn't want to kill Jesus. He's very concerned about what's going on here because his wife had a dream, and he's very afraid of what this means, and that he will be judged of God. And he is, if you read history about Pilate, this is not a good man, right? This is not a good man. And he's going to wash himself. This is all part of the ritual of the Day of Atonement, to be washed. He's going to, dip his hands in the water and wash himself of this choice that the chief priests and elders are going to make in killing Jesus. So you have this Day of Atonement imagery on essentially the Day of Atonement, the real Day of Atonement, which is starting on Thursday night, which is the beginning of the Jewish day in Gethsemane, and then on to Friday with the cross. Remember that we look at that very differently. Our day is over, at about midnight or even sunset. Well, really at midnight, right? And so we look at this as two separate days. The Jews would have seen Gethsemane and the cross as the same day. Those are both Friday, right? It's all happening on the same day. So this is kind of a day of atonement. And between these two is this judgment that Pilate is in charge of, but that the elite chief priests and elders that are in charge of everything, the temple and really everything here with Jerusalem under the Romans' rule, are the ones who are going to decide who's going to die. And they accuse Jesus and send him to the cross to be crucified. So this is the fulfillment with the mocking and the beating and the scourging and all of the suffering servant in Isaiah 52 and 53. Jesus is the servant, right? We've talked about this even at the Last Supper. He is the servant king. He is the greatest among us, therefore he is the least among us. He is the servant. So he is fulfilling this ritual that took place back in the time of Isaiah, because that's not just a prophecy, that is a ritual that the king is going through at the time of the temple drama. And the king would be beaten and scourged, and then he is going to go down below, and he will be down there for 3 days, and the lights in all of Jerusalem will be turned off. No light can be lit for 3 days, and then he will come back out resurrected and glorified as the king. So we're still going through that ancient temple drama and the fulfillment of that ancient temple drama. And of course, it's being written in so that we are to see this very specifically. It is going to be written in the imagery of the Day of Atonement, because that is the real meaning of the Day of Atonement, of Yom Kippur. So Pilate throws up his hands and says, fine, we'll send the king, your king, to be crucified. And Jesus will take up the cross, carry it up to Golgotha, and there will be crucified, where he would be at the very point and center of traffic at the time of Passover. I mean, this is right where everybody would walk by, and he's probably not way up high. He's probably pretty low. And he's there to be humiliated. He's there as a show of force by the Romans. And he's put up on the cross at about 9 a.m. And he's taken off at about 3 p.m. in the afternoon, because the Sabbath is coming up. Now, being that this is a shorter video, I'm not going to cover much about the crucifixion itself, but it is it's one of the most excruciating, most horrific ways to die. But it's not the crucifixion alone that is the story with Jesus here in his death. It is the taking on the sins of the world, where he does this in Gethsemane and then likely again on the cross. There are many people that are crucified. There's a couple of other individuals that are crucified with him. There are thousands that the Romans have crucified. The point is that he is going to lower himself below all, both physically and spiritually. And I want to bring up one point of interest here also, and that is that in the Synoptic Gospels, in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, you have the temple veil being torn at his death. And most of Christianity will say, well, that is the sign that the temple is done. You don't need the temple anymore. Now it's going to be Christ's resurrected body that is the temple, right, so to speak. Of course, we know that that's not true. And in fact, you just read in Acts, and you'll see very clearly that the disciples went to the temple all the time. They continued to go to the temple. They taught in the temple. And it's not until the temple is destroyed in 70 AD that they stop going to the temple. And with Jesus being the new Melchizedek, a new temple is ushered in during those 40 days with Jesus after his resurrection. But interestingly, John in his gospel does not have the veil tearing, but rather has a soldier, to make sure that he's dead, pierce his body with a spear in the side. So the veil is rent about the time that Jesus' body is rent. And you'll see in early Christian art, Mary with the loom making the veil of the temple. So here you have, if you look in the book of Hebrews, Jesus is the veil. Mary, to some degree, is associated with that, right? In a way, she's kind of the veil also. Right? You look at the tree of Lehi's vision, the tree of life, and there's a close association there. But Jesus is the veil, and those that are endowed wear the garment of the temple. You are wearing Christ. You are putting on Christ. You are taking on his name with that garment. That garment has a direct correlation to this moment in time on this Friday, as does the veil within the temple that has the same markings and the same significance. Jesus is the intermediary between us and the Father. I'll talk to you tomorrow.